Welcome back, everyone. This is CIT 124 Introduction to Cybersecurity or Information Security. We are continuing our lecture and we'll be finishing this chapter today. That's talking about mostly about what are attackers, or what are the different kinds of attackers or hackers are there in the market, which are dedicated towards penetrating in the networks or disrupting the services as far as the IT infrastructure is concerned. So as you can see that attackers are usually divided into several categories, and these categories include cyber criminals, script kiddies, brokers, insiders, cyber terrorists, hacktivists, and state-sponsored hackers. Everyone has their own different interest, and they are safeguarding their own interest. We'll try to understand that what are they and what they are doing actually. So starting from cyber criminals, we can describe them as the individuals who launch attacks against other users and their computers. They are strictly talking about the cyber criminals are those who are a loose network of attackers or hackers identified as thieves or financial fraudsters who are highly motivated, and they are working it sometimes for free, or sometimes they are working for a financial gain. Now these are the basic this is the basic definition of it. Some of them belong to the groups as well, and being a part of the group, they decide and then they target any specific network or organization. Their targets are individuals, businesses, and even sometimes the government offices. Now, in cyber criminals, there are further three categories of it, which are surface web, or the deep web attackers who are there, or the dark web. Surface web are the ones which are the guys that can be found and indexed by a search engine. Just like if you are searching about their information and that's a group of hackers available somewhere online, they name them differently, depends on the kind of country where they are actually located. They are naming themselves accordingly, but they can be searched easily and you can find their information, etc. Deep web is a kind of internet in which content can be searched only through the website, but there is no indexing available of it. Not like Google or anything like that works on those kind of networks. Most of the organizations are keeping their databases safe in the deep web, so that they are safe from any kind of attacks, because if no one can search about the identity of those kind of databases, it becomes almost impossible to target those kind of databases. Now, deep dark web, which is the black market for the attackers, and it's illegal in to access it and even try to access those kind of services. Information that has been intentionally hidden and cannot be accessed through a standard web browser. You need special browsers and tools in order to reach deep dark web. Now, next one is script kiddies. Now, these are the young individuals who want to attack the computers. They have little knowledge about the coding and stuff, but there are some tools available online with the help of which they can polish their skills and they can target any network. They can use automated softwares, or they can make or purchase an exploit kit, and they can use those kind of kits to target different kind of organizations. Now those kind of attacks which they are usually launching on the networks or companies, over 40% of the attacks require low or even no skills required. Now they are dividing it into low skill guys who are around about 28%, no skilled guys who are into this category around about 13%, highly skilled are only 15%, with moderate skills, that's the ones who have a little bit idea about using those scripts, those are the ones which are taking the 44% of this overall kind of hackers or attackers who are targeting the networks. Now next are brokers. Now brokers are the ones who are working towards finding the weaknesses of a system, and sometimes they inform them, sometimes they don't inform the companies. Like if there is a software out there, or there is a financial system out there, or if there is an operating system new release out there, they'll find the weaknesses of it, and they'll not inform the original company, and they'll try to sell it in the black market or the dark market. Because if most of the bigger organizations are using those financial systems, so that could be a prime target for those kind of guys, that they'll try to attack their financial systems for the financial gain. Now most of the companies are sponsoring the competitions, and where they call them as bug bounties. They'll say that that's our new software, and if you'll find any weaknesses in it, we'll be paying you a handsome amount. So in that way they can test their software before launching it to the market, so that the guys who are good into finding the weaknesses and the problems in the software, they'll help them so that it is already secure once they'll release it in the market. Now their main goal is to break into computer systems, take the information without drawing the attention to the actions. Because the software is working smoothly, they'll find some weaknesses in the software, with the help of which they'll be able to make certain changes to the system. Generally possess excellent computer skills, and they are very good in maintaining and checking what's going on in the operating system and the software which is being installed on the computers. Now the next one is the insiders. That's the far most dangerous thing out there at the moment, because as I told you earlier that we have more threat from within the organization rather than from outside the organization. Insiders are the guys who are working inside the organization. That actually comes from as an unlikely source. It's employees, contractors, or business partners who are working for that organization. Now an organization will have different kind of employees. Some would be full-time, some would be part-time, some would be contractors who will be working over there for a short period of time. Now since they are working in your organization, you'll provide them certain username and passwords. They'll be working it, they'll use it. Once they leave the organization, sometimes we forget to disable their accounts. Now in that case, if those accounts are still active, they'll use those accounts to penetrate in the network. Further, since they have worked with that organization, so they know the weaknesses and how that department operates, what are the duty hours, when someone is monitoring, when someone is not monitoring, and if someone is on break. So all that kind of information is usually being exploited by the guys who are not full-time employees, or sometimes even by the full-time employees. One study showed that 48% of the data breaches are caused by insider accessing the information, or sometimes because of their weakness towards understanding the system or understanding the basic requirements of information technology. That's why they say that information security is everyone's responsibility. We cannot just throw it to the guys who are working in the IT department or who are responsible for the IT infrastructure and stuff. It's our combined responsibility to make sure that whatever we are doing is in accordance with the principles and the guidelines as instructed by your IT department. Most insider attacks usually result in sabotage or theft of intellectual property. Means any important information which was there related to you, your business partners, or confidential information about the sales and stuff. Sometimes the guys who are working in the organization would be leaking out that information to the rival parties. Most sabotage comes from the employees who have recently been demoted or discouraged or left the company due to their own actions or due to any disciplinary actions. So as a revenge, they would try to come up with these kind of dirty tactics. Now next is cyber terrorism. Now cyber terrorism has many security experts fear that the terrorist will turn their attacks to a nation, network, or computer infrastructure to cause disruption and panic among the citizens. These are the guys who are called the cyber terrorists. They'll attack the huge organization, financial systems, national databases, even the information about the citizens, their medical records, insurance, car registration, and all those things which are related to the governments mostly. They can be inactive. They'll find some weaknesses in the system. Maybe they'll not target it at that time, but they'll wait for the right time once instructed, or if they are being funded by the companies, they'll launch those kind of attacks. Now, next are Hectivist. Among the groups motivated by ideology are Hectivist, unlikely cyber terrorists who launch attacks against foreign nations to incite panic. Hectivist, a combination of the words like hack and activism, are generally not as well defined. Attacks by the hacktivists can involve breaking into websites, changing the content on the websites, even making political statements about those things on different websites. Now, that's how these kind of guys are sometimes trying to get the information out from the national databases, and they will be copying the information which is there on government websites, and even sometimes changing that information for their own gains and activities. Now, state-sponsored attackers are the ones which are backed by the governments to target other nations or their systems or their infrastructures. Government may instigate attacks against own citizens or foreign governments. Most state-sponsored attacks are directed towards businesses, foreign countries, exchanges, financial institutions, just to harm the overall reputation of that company in front of the citizens. Now, state-sponsored attacks, they are just explaining everything over here in a slide, saying that what cyber criminals are doing, they are doing it fortune over fame. Like, they want to get famous and they want to get some money. Scriptkits, they are the people who are doing it just for fun, and they want to learn new things. Brokers sell vulnerable to the highest bidders. Whoever pays them the highest for their penetration or their activities online, they will sell that information to those guys. Insiders are the ones or the employees who are working within an organization, and they want to target certain things. Again, hacktivist to write a perceived wrong against them, and they are usually targeting the governments and the businesses. Then state-sponsored are the ones who are spies or the citizens, sometimes even working within the countries just to damage the overall reputation of those organizations. Now, what's the best strategy when you are dealing with all those different kind of problems on the networks and stuff? There are 4 key elements of creating a practical security strategy. First of all, block the attack. Second is update your defenses. Third is minimize the losses, and then stay alert all the time. I must say that you must update your defenses first to minimize the losses, and then block the attacks which are coming in. Because if your defenses are up to date and you have the latest technologies and strategies being adopted in your organization, there are no reasons that your information could be leaked out to anyone outside the organization. So it's your responsibility to make sure that your defenses are up to date. In that way, you can minimize the losses in the organization. Even then, if something comes in from outside in form of an attack, you must be vigilant enough to block it as it's coming, and then be alert. So you can be in a position to block the attack only if you're alert. Tactic used since the Middle Ages, as mentioned above, with the help of which it helps you towards the overall security and defenses of your organization. In your book, they are giving an example of the medieval castle, and you can read all that information. Just in a different scenario, they are explaining it, that what people used to do in medievals and how they used to protect themselves. Now, update the defenses mean continually update the defenses to protect the information against new type of attacks. Whatever is going on in the market, you must be very well aware of the latest trends or the weaknesses found in the operating systems and stuff. Now, there are different forums for that available online. There are different forums for the operating systems. There are different forums for the firewalls and security loopholes, or any kind of new worm like the ransomware and stuff like that are being released in the market. So those kind of forums are usually discussing all this information related to the networks and the problems that you could potentially face in your everyday business. So if you are keeping an eye on those things, you'll get an idea about what's going on in the world. Now, some hackers or attackers usually target a specific kind of operating system or a specific kind of a firewall once they'll find a weakness in that. So you must keep an eye on the white papers or the latest update release from the firewall companies of the vendor that you are using it. For example, if you are using Palo Alto firewalls in your organization, keep an eye on their updates and their tips in order to make sure that your firewalls and your systems are up to date. Minimize the losses. You must always take preemptive measures in order to minimize the loss. The best thing in order to minimize the losses to maintain the backups on regular intervals. Now, if a penetration takes place, you'll have to shut down the system, or you'll have to isolate it from the network till your forensics team would clear it so that it would be functional, or maybe they'll ask that we'll close it completely and you'll use the last working backup. But before that, they'll have to make sure that even if the previous backup was not compromised, only in that case you can use the previous backup. It's better than having nothing. Because if a server is compromised and you have isolated it from the network, you cannot tell your employees or the customers out there that we cannot perform anymore because our system has been compromised. You'll have to come up immediately with the data or the information which was stored by firing up the backup server which was there, which has all the latest information. That's why we keep the application server and the database server separately. So if the application server is compromised, your data on the database would be safe. And there, backing up a data on a database is far easier than creating backups of the entire operating system of the servers. Now, by staying alert, that means that today's information of the security is the responsibility of all users. Users must have all the knowledge what is required, what they must do, as well as the proper motivation to stay secure. Now, if you will keep it open for the employees that, okay, we installed the latest antivirus solution software on your computer, we have a nice firewall in the company, so that's it, you don't need to worry about anything. But that's not the case, because most of us are using a USB which is being used at home, at our personal computers, and the same USB is being used in the offices. So if you are carrying a virus which was loaded in the computer at home where you don't have a strong antivirus solution software, it did not detect it, and since it was new and you connected the same USB to the computers in the offices, of course you are contaminating the network. Now that's your sole responsibility, that what are the procedures if you want to open a USB which is being used somewhere outside the network. Your responsibility must be that before opening it, make sure you're scanning it with the antivirus which is provided by your organization, just to make sure that that USB is 100% clean and it's not going to affect your computer or the files, Word documents or Excel sheets which are available on that computer. So that's how we make sure that it's our responsibility as well. As per the latest instructions from the ministry, we have certain guidelines as well, that if you or your PC was involved or used by installing any other software on the computer by a third party, you're solely responsible for your own machine and the activities which were performed using your computer. So that's our combined responsibility to be alert, to be updated, to read the emails which are being received from the IT department regarding the latest outbreaks or the viruses or any kind of alerts which are required, and adhere to those kind of instructions which are being passed on. So that's why it is very important to make sure that things are working as per the guidelines. Now that brings us to the end of this chapter, and we have now we covered the basics of information security as far as our network is concerned. We'll continue it from on the next chapter from next onwards. Thank you very much.